Good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good morning, depending on where you are in the world. And I hope that you are all well. If you're anything like me, you're an Eskimo sweating in the Bahamas because it is really hot in the UK, and I am just not built for this kind of heat. So, and I don't think my guest is going to be built for this kind of heat either. However, we are here to bring you a lovely show. He's a guest that's been on before. I love him greatly. He's going to be joined by Chris of Speaker's Corner. However, before I let him on, because I know he's chomping at the bit to tell you about his amazing argument and his amazing book and all the other amazing things that he does, I just want to encourage you that if you are one of those many, many people who watch my live streams, but you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It helps the channel. Please like the live stream. That also helps the live stream and it helps the channel as well. And do share your thoughts and your comments in the comment section. That also helps the channel. And if you really are being blessed by what I'm trying to do here, then please consider in prayer whether you can support that work. And if you decide that you can, all the links are in the description box. Also, I just want to punt my own backlog. I have a massive back catalogue on this channel of live streams, videos. I've got a massive backlog catalogue of blogs that I've done on my blog, as well as a backlog on Patreon, my Patreon, of Bible studies that I've done. Tuck in, guys. There's a lot of material there that covers a vast range of topics, and I'm sure that you would find it a blessing to you. So without further ado, let me bring on the man of the moment, a very special guest, Chris at Speaker's Corner, who in no way at all copied my name, Bob of Speaker's Corner, and I in no way inspired him to get involved in this work at all.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. No relation whatsoever. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm well, thank you. But as I said, I am sweating a lot in this heat.
Yeah, man.
I'm just not built for it.
I'm not built for it. I'm built for the cold. I'm not built for the heat.
Give me frosty mornings and fog and light drizzle, and I am happy. But this heat is just kicking my ass.
Yeah, man, it's been difficult. Put it this way. I don't know about in your room, but here there's two big lights in my face. So I've got the window fully open over here. You know, I'm trying to make it work, but it is warm.
It is warm. It is very warm. And what a British way to start anything, talking about the weather.
Yeah, as is tradition.
So the reason why we brought you on is because you went and wrote a book faster than me.
Yes.
How clever are you? Do you want to punt it and do the whole buy my book thing?
I've got to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, this is The Islamic Dilemma. This is a book I have been writing for the past 9 months or thereabouts. It is probably the most comprehensive work on the Islamic dilemma, an argument that I'm sure we'll go into in more detail as this live stream goes on. And yeah, this is the hardback copy. I'm hoping Bob puts a link to it in his video down below.
I can do. I'm sure the mods are picking that up right now.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome if the mods could do that. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for The Islamic Dilemma, and yeah, you'll find it. It's been doing really, really well, and the reviews are all positive. Brilliant. Apart from one review. And that one review is from someone called John Fontaine. I don't know if you've heard of him, Bob.
I have heard of John Fontaine. What did he say about your book?
So
Derivative.
Yeah, I released the book as an ebook first, and the day that it was released at about 8 a.m. British time.
Yeah.
And before noon, before 12 o'clock, he had already apparently read the whole book and decided to leave a review.
Book.
Yeah. Before it had even been out for less than a day. In a matter of hours.
I mean, the guy is known as the scholar of scholars, isn't he? He's like,
absolutely,
you know, so of course he could get the book, read it all within like 4 hours sharpish.
Yeah,
you know, that's completely believable.
Yeah,
and we all know that the Da'i never lie. The Da'i never make anything up. They are completely honest and trustworthy, especially when raising funds.
Oh yeah, or making AI content as well. You know.
Oh yeah. They would never make AI content.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it is the definitive work, which only brings me to one question, Chris. Considering how closely, you know, we are connected, considering that I helped to encourage you down this path, why haven't I received a free copy?
Well, that's because you haven't purchased one yet, Bob.
A free copy.
Seriously, I've been a lot of people have asked, but the way I see it is, I could ask people like to help support my ministry by donating, but I've never been a big fan of asking people to give me money. So at least this way, I can say, hey, if you want to support me, I can give you a book in return, right? That's kind of my way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But it also means, Bob, you do have to get your credit card out and you do have to actually buy a copy of the book. I made my own family buy my book, even though they have no idea about the book. Or my own family got the book and were like, Chris, I have no idea what this is. Like, this is way beyond me, but apparently it's doing really well. And congratulations! So I'm like, okay.
Well done. Okay, well, I'll buy it. I'll buy it maybe as Christmas gifts for people. You know,
many people.
So if I have shared this on X, I want to encourage everyone who's watching this, if you haven't already, please do share this live stream on X so that people can find that we're doing this. And let's bring in folks who want to join us. And I will just be saying that if, you know, there are any Muslims in the chat, I will occasionally be putting out the link to the chat so people can, you know, only Muslims, I want to stress this, only Muslims can come on and make their counter arguments directly to Chris. But do you want to maybe start just going? I know we've done this argument before, but it is the argument that is haunting the Da'i the most, I think, of all the other arguments that are out there. Partly because, you know, just everyone's bashing on about it. David Wood made it his mission in life to make this the number one argument. You know, it's not like this is the only big hit that the Christians have ever landed on the Dawagandists. You know, Hatun Tash managed to hit a huge hit on the variant versions of the Quran and destroying that whole one Quran argument. And I just keep peppering them with jabs endlessly. So, you know, so go on, like, tell us a little bit about why you decided you were going to make a run with it.
Okay, so it goes back to last year. I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time before then looking into the argument, and I knew how impactful it was, and there was so much scope to be explored in the argument, I thought. And ultimately, it just became very popular. David was pushing it in his talks. He went to the NAPC conference and he gave a talk about it. And at the same time, he had made a YouTube video where he was setting up a group of people in a Discord server that were going to go through, read the whole Quran from start to finish, analyze it, make spreadsheets with all these verses in it related to the Islamic dilemma, look at the scholarly opinions, the exegesis, the tafsir, you know, like get all this stuff, put it all together, and then we can see what we can do with it. And I joined them. I actually joined them quite late, actually, comparatively, but I did, and I was like, hey, I've been really into this, and I feel like I could pursue it. So I read the Quran again with a group of people and put together a massive spreadsheet of all the relevant Quran verses. And then, I realized, hang on a second, you know, then I started like making notes on it. And I was like, these notes are becoming quite lengthy. Feel like I might need to make this into a book. And that's what I did. I thought, you know what? This seems to be what's happening here. Someone needs to do it. And I do think, and I've thought this for a while, Christians need to write more about things. Like, because there is value in doing that, in actually having staple works you can refer to that describe this polemic space and this apologetic space. Because it's great, you know, we have YouTube, we have articles, we have podcasts, whatever. These are really awesome. But I also think you need the kind of the written word. You need something that, I don't know, solidifies it. I don't know. But yeah, just kind of like, you know how books, they're things that you buy and you have on your shelf for a long period of time. And they're cultural things as well, I think. So
yeah.
I felt like someone needs to do that. So
I think in terms of the polemical space, Christians do need to do better at recording their arguments. You know, Answering Islam is a great website. It's full of good arguments. You know, I've created an apologetics app called Btbsoco Armory that people can download and use. There's a space, but people do need to. And I'm working with a church in East Dulwich to produce pamphlets and tracts, and they've started producing their own pamphlets and tracts that people can buy for apologetics and polemics to reach the Muslims that we love so dearly. So, you know, so now that you've introduced the reason why you've got into it, like, congratulations, well done to you, because you outpaced me. I was writing a book about 2 years ago when it was meant to take me a month, I thought, in my naivety, and you managed to smash this out in 9 months, didn't you?
Yeah, but I did I spent a lot of time on it. I treated it like it was a full-time job, basically.
Yeah.
So
something I have not been able to do, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you've got other commitments, right? You've got other things.
I'm doing all kinds of things. I'm organising a protest this coming Saturday in York, outside of the Church of England Synod. So if anyone can get down there, the advert is going to be on my YouTube channel tonight. It's also already on my X account, where all the details are, because I haven't got it off the top of my head. But it'll be posted up soon. So come back to the channel about an hour or two after this live stream's finished, and you'll see the details. But everyone should get down for that protest if they can. So do you want to just? I'll just point out something else. I used this argument years ago down at the corner, before David Wood popularized it, where I just challenged Muslims to show me a clear, unambiguous verse in which Allah said that the Injil had been corrupted, and no Muslim could do that. They showed me lots of verses, but none that actually said that the Injil was corrupted, or the Torah for that matter. Yeah. You know, and I think that is the essential underpinning of the argument. Would you say that's fair, or would you say that it's something else?
Yeah, well, you're kind of alluding to what I think is the main pivot point here, which is that there's a language of confirming. The Quran is affirming the validity of something, but it's also not in a line with it, the very thing that it confirms. So it's this very like two rocks, two hard places, and the Quran is stuck in the middle, where it wants to affirm our scriptures, but it also wants to contradict them. And what does that look like? Because usually when someone does something like that, we call them, two-faced. They're speaking out of both sides of their mouth, right? If I said, I affirm everything that Bob Speaker's Corner says, I affirm you, I've actually come here with my own message confirming what Bob Speaker's Corner says. And then later you hear me say totally the opposite. Now that would be fine if I elaborated instead of changing my mind. I said, well, I had to think about it. Actually I said that then, but I don't believe it now. But if I told you to your face, I both affirm you, but I also deeply disagree with you, it kind of feels like, no, you can't do that. Something's wrong here. You're confused. You don't know what you're saying. You can't say that one of the very reasons, and it's a big argument in the Quran, it's one of the main arguments in the Quran, that the Muhammad has come with the Quran, a revelation from Allah, and the purpose of it, or one of them, is to confirm what is with the Christians and Jews. That is one of the massive cornerstone arguments the Quran makes, and it's an outreach to Christians and Jews to say, look, I'm not a new prophet in some totally new line. I am in continuation of the previous prophets, of Jesus, of Moses, of Abraham. I am a continuation of all of these. So just as you believe in these prophets and the message they gave you, you should believe me in the same sense. And he even goes further. He even says, actually, it's one of the other arguments he makes is the message these prophets gave you prophesied about me. So even your own scriptures should lead you to believe that I am actually a prophet in the same sense that Jesus and all the other prophets were. So to say that, and then to be like, actually, you know what? I don't really agree with this whole children of God language. I don't think we are children of God in any sense. God is not a father in any sense. The resurrection, the crucifixion, resurrection.
It doesn't mention the resurrection directly, does it?
Just no, it doesn't. It denies the crucifixion, but by extension, there can be no resurrection without a crucifixion. Correct. There can be an ascension, but the ascension is, again, not the same, and it's described differently. So, I mean, the eyewitness of the disciples who see him post-resurrection, that can't happen either. So that is something that's denied if you take the Sunni perspective. So
and then also you've got the fact that because when I argued this at Speaker's Corner many moons ago, that I was making the negative case, because like there is no clear verse in the Quran that says that the text is corrupted. There's all kinds of accusations against Jews, against Christians. We're deceitful, we're liars. The Quran accuses us plenty, and it accuses the Jews plenty, but it never makes an accusation of corruption against the Injil and against the Torah or the Zabur. And and that is the crux of the dilemma for me, is that Muslims constantly say that you should use explicit verses to exegete vague verses, and that's a good strategy of exegesis. We should, hopefully Christians are applying similar logic to Scripture, but the fact that the Quran is very clear in its accusations against Christians, and those are all the verses that Muslims use to try and justify the idea of the corrupt text, when none of those verses ever talk about the text. It's always talking about the Christians and what they are doing with regards to the text, or the Jews and what they're doing in regards to the text. It is for me the crux upon which the argument lands. So how many verses did you cover in your book? Did you go through the whole?
Oh, okay.
The whole lot?
Yeah. I mean, well, okay. So the Islamic Dilemma, how we're talking about it right now is one way of looking at the Islamic Dilemma. And that's the way that I think is the strongest.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of utility to this. I think it's a sort of good way of continuing into talking about the gospel, because you're contrasting it with the gospel quite often. So it's a great pathway to do that. But other people will think of the Islamic Dilemma slightly differently, and they'll think of it as things like, so in the Quran, in Surah 15, Ayah 8, it says that Allah, you can't change Allah's words. How does that work? That's one aspect of the Islamic Dilemma. Another one will be things like Surah Al-Imran, Surah 355, where it talks about how there are people who are the true followers of Isa, of Jesus, who will be made uppermost, until the day of resurrection. Who are those people? Because that kind of looks like it's Trinitarian, Nicene Creed believing Christians. So those things are kind of separate points you can go into. I don't go into those really in my book. It's mostly the idea that the Quran is confirming our scriptures, but also contradicting them, and has no way of reconciling this. It seems like the Quran author has made an error. If the Quran author has made an error, either linguistically, because he just uses the wrong words to describe what he's trying to do, or if he's maybe being deceitful, maybe he's saying he's confirming things, but not really. Or maybe he doesn't know what he's confirming and thinks he actually is confirming it, but really doesn't know the text, so therefore he's ignorant. Either of these options demonstrates a human author. And if the Quran has a human author, then Islam, as we understand it, is false.
Yeah,
So
I think my guess is that the author of the Quran just did not understand what he was confirming. You know, he didn't understand the Bible like like a Jehovah's Witness picks up a Bible and just gets it wrong, or a Mormon picks up the Bible and gets it wrong, or a modalist picks up the Bible and gets it wrong.
Well, I think
that the author of the Quran, whoever that might be, and we'll just call him Muhammad for now, he had some exposure to Christian stories, but didn't understand the point of them, and thinks that he was confirming them, thinks that his message and that message that he'd been exposed to aligned, even though they didn't.
Right.
And that's my. I actually think he was that dumb.
Wait, you think he was that dumb?
I do think he was that dumb.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So I genuinely, because we meet people who read the scriptures all the time and get wild interpretations out of it.
So in one way, I think you're actually being too generous. So what I would actually say is, I don't think Muhammad or whoever this was ever had read the text. I don't think they ever had access to the text. So Sidney Griffith has written about this in his book Bible in Arabic. He argues that there was no Bible in Arabic at the time of Muhammad. It was only just after Muhammad, decades if not a century after, that we start to see the Bible being translated into Arabic. So he couldn't have read, since he only knew Arabic, according to tradition. He wasn't an expert on Aramaic or Hebrew or Greek.
Yep.
So he only could know what was actually written in a Torah scroll or a Gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He only knew because someone told him.
Agreed.
So it's the oral tradition he's relying on, and he actually knows that very well. So scholars have pointed this out. Gabriel Said Reynolds has, and others. The Quran, you have to give it credit where credit's due. It does actually recount a lot of stories. You know, like it talks about Moses and his brother Aaron, and talks about Noah and the flood, and talks about how Pharaoh chased Moses across the Red Sea. You know, quite a bit of detail in that. It knows that. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't get the stories quite right. It has differences, and they're not scribal differences. They're not things you can brush away or just absence of details. They're actually hard, conflicting accounts.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to examples of that. But because that's there, I think you basically are forced to do one of two things. Either Muhammad didn't know what was actually there, and he's heard something, misunderstood it, or he heard something that wasn't actually meant to be from the text, but he thought it was. Or he actually does know that it's not in the text. He does know it's not there, but it has utility. So he's repeating it. Or he does know it's not in the text. He hasn't actually even heard this as an oral story. The Jews and the Christians aren't saying this either. But he himself has come up with it, or someone around him. And he's altering the story with an intent that's largely pragmatic. It'll be things like changing the story to make a theological point, right? So the Quran often has a big emphasis on sons challenging their fathers, for example. So you could argue, and some scholars have argued, that maybe that's just intentional. The Quran author wants to make that point because he's dealing with a community of people that have just followed in the tradition of their fathers. So he wants to make these stories, change them a little bit. So it's like, oh, you see how Pharaoh was like a father to Moses, because it's a bit ambiguous in the Quran. It seems to be kind of a father-son relationship there, which is not quite right. But and the Quran plays into that to emphasize the point that Pharaoh here is wrong. The son, Moses in this example, is correct.
Yeah.
Likewise, Noah has a son. The son, actually, that's a bad example because the son actually was wrong in that one. But it's a motif found throughout the Quran. So I would say that if the Quran is doing any of these things, it's all a sign of human interaction. It's all a human endeavor. It's not.
Which one of those theories do you favor yourself personally?
Okay, so I actually think it's multiple, because I think there are clearly parts where Muhammad knows about a contemporary tradition and he chooses to engage with the tradition. The story of Joseph, Surah 12 in the Quran, is full of this. He's clearly engaging with Syriac homilies that came from the Church of the East about a century prior. Like scholars have written about this. We can clearly see, we can look at Jacob of Saru, look at his writings, his homilies, and we can clearly see that the Quran author knows about them and is choosing to interact with them. Now, a lot of the time is actually
the story of the Seven Sleepers would be another example.
Yes,
that was a massively popular Christian story.
Oh, that's perfect. So, although that's obviously not biblical, although it is in Eastern Orthodox tradition, I think it is interesting. Did you know? Okay, so in the Quran it talks about the cave of the seven sleepers, right? It mentions a dog.
It does.
There is a dog that supposedly guards over them. Now, that's not unique to the Quran, but it's also not in the original, like in the original Seven Sleepers story. If you go to the original Syriac, it says there's a watcher over them. Over time, the word watcher gets re-understood through a Christian lens. In basically, the church takes it and it contrasts the sleepers with like sheep, lambs. And there's a watcher, a guardian over the sheep. Well, what's a guardian over sheep? It's a sheepdog.
Yeah.
So they actually understand this word later on to be sheepdog or dog. And we actually have a work that's known to us, Gabriel Sidey Reynolds writes about this, where it actually says what the name of the dog is. Wow. It's like Valentinianus or some word, right? It's like we actually know
in
the dog's
Syriac
name.
Tradition.
In the Syriac tradition, which predates the Quran. What I'm trying to say is that the dog is not original.
Yeah.
The dog is a later change in the way that they're looking at things, which the Quran then picks up on.
And probably gives us a timeline as to and a route. You know, if you trace the passage of that story both in time and space, that'll give us a timeline from whence the Quran is picking that up, and possibly even where. And I just want to say for people that are watching this, you know, because if they're a British audience and they think sheepdog, they're thinking of those tiny little beautiful black and white dogs. That's not what we're talking about. Like sheepdogs in the Middle East were giant, huge animals that could rip your face off, right? We're not talking little dogs that are just meant to herd sheep and the biggest thing that they might have to fight is a badger. We're talking huge things that look more like Rottweilers and could rip up wolves. So, you know, that's what it's talking about. These are like examples where the Quran author is engaging with contemporary versions of stories that aren't quite the original. They aren't quite scripture even. So the story of Joseph, it's engaging with homilies, and the homily is, you know, a liturgical way of talking about the story to the layman. It's not sacred scripture. So but the Quran's engaging with it anyway. And one way we can know about this is actually through typology. Charbel Risk is the name of a scholar who's looked at the Joseph story, and he points out that if you look at Jacob of Saru and Afrahat and others who were using the story and telling it in homilaic form a century or two prior to the Quran, they were using typology. They were saying, they were like, look at Joseph's two visions, and they were understanding the visions in a typological way to point to Christ. They did it all over the place. And it looks as if the Quran knew this was happening and intentionally didn't copy it. Because the Quranic account, for example, doesn't have both of Joseph's visions at the beginning. It only has one vision. So there's a vision of the collections of wheat or yeast or something, and they all bundle together and they start bowing down. Well, that's one vision, and then the other vision is of the celestial objects, right? The moon, the sun, the stars, and so on. So the Quran only records the latter. And one of the understandings of why that might be, according to scholars like Charbel Risk, is it's because there's typological significance in the first vision that Joseph had. And so the Quran author just basically chooses not to include it because it's problematic. He doesn't agree with theology. He doesn't agree with the typological significance. Do you think it's that, or do you think he was the author of the Quran was that sophisticated, or do you think it was just a case of it was based upon what he was exposed to, what he remembered, and what seemed opportune at the time? Because here's where I would push back and say, now you're being too generous, you know, by crediting him with genuine theological engagement with, and I think Rael Gabriel Reynolds is probably being too generous by assuming an intellect that could have engaged in a theological discourse with Christian tradition. I think it was more likely that, the author of the Quran was desperate for material, and he's sucking it in because he's been exposed, and through his conversations with Christians, maybe his conversation with Christian slaves, Christian traders. He might have even attended church and been exposed to liturgy, because even though the Bible was not translated, it's possible. I'm just putting this out there as a hypothesis. It's possible that he might have been exposed to, liturgies in Arabic, because the Orthodox churches were doing mission work, both from Ethiopia and the Syrian Church of the East were doing missionary work in the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe even exposed to these stories by interacting with Christian missionaries.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think wherever this is happening, because there's questions about, is this the Hijaz or is it somewhere else? But wherever this is, there are Christians and Jews there, and the author does know a lot about them and their stories. Now, I think the Quran author he's trying to devise a new community, ultimately. And he's trying to do so in a way that's engaging with Christians and Jews. He wants to convince them. He also wants to challenge them. Because he never condemns them as like, you guys aren't saved. He never says you guys can't join my community. Rather, in fact, when he even talks about fighting them, it's traditionally understood as being in the end part of the Quran. So chronologically speaking, he gets more closed-minded to the Christians and Jews as time goes on. But originally, he's like, we want you to join this. We do think you have salvation if you follow your scriptures properly, which is an interesting concept in the Quran. He goes on to say, so we are the Muslims, we are the believers, the mu'minun, or however you pronounce it. We want you to join us precisely because you should accept our guy as a prophet. And how do you know this? Well, let him tell you about the story of Moses. You guys know the story of Moses. Look, so does he. And he's retelling it to you so you can accept that he is in the same line. So I think in parts, some of it is just an error. Like he's heard things and he's not understood them properly. That's natural from a human author. So that would be something I would think is very likely to be the case. I think in some instances he is actually clever enough to change the stories intentionally to avoid accidentally affirming things he doesn't want to affirm. Because I do think there are some people that would disagree with me here, but I do think the Quran author does have issues with Trinitarian theology. He does have issues with the idea of Jesus being the Son. And even actually anyone being more than a slave. We aren't children of God in the Islamic paradigm, in the Quranic paradigm. Yeah. So he wants to make these points. So he has theological opinions, and he wants to back them up.
But the blunt kind of theological opinions that the author of the Quran has are are stated openly and overtly. I think sometimes we read into the distortions of the stories that the Quran is lifting and borrowing. Like, for instance, the story of Solomon and Bathsheba. The Quran is borrowing stories, and we've over-intellectualized it and think that it's trying to make sophisticated points by cutting off this bit of the story or changing that bit of the story, rather than just going, there's this guy that got exposed to a couple of stories and retold them, but he didn't really remember them properly, so he just made them up on the spot. So I want to interrupt you because we got Umar coming in, and I just want to say before I bring Umar in to talk, any Muslim who's watching this can join. Please, guy, do share this on your social media, on your X or your Blue Sky or whatever social media you've got. Let in people who want to come and watch this live stream. And without further ado, I will bring in Umar. Umar, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm well, thanks be to God.
Doing well, thank you, Umar.
So, Umar, you've heard a little bit from Chris. I don't know how long you've been in the chat, but the point, obviously, is to talk about the Islamic dilemma. Do you know what that is, or do we need to go over it for you
No,
before
no.
you reply?
I'm well.
You're familiar.
Yeah. Bring up your
Yeah.
points.
Okay. Do
I
you want to
know what
reply
is.
then to
Yeah, I'm
the
familiar. Yes.
argument? I'm sorry, Uma, I didn't catch that. Say again, please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My argument is like the Islamic dilemma will not work
Go on.
unless the Quran entirely confirm the entire Bible. Quran confirm the Injil and the Torah. Injil and Torah are not the Bible or not the New Testament or Old Testament. So
Can I just add real
yeah.
quick? What makes you think that the Quran has to confirm the whole of the Bible? What makes you think that?
If the Quran is selective, how the dilemma works? Can you explain? Okay, let's go that approach. Okay, if the Quran is selective, can you explain how the dilemma works? I need to understand that one first.
Yeah, sure. So the Quran, when it talks about confirmation, it talks quite broadly. It mentions
Okay.
the word musaddiq in relation to confirming what is either with Christians and Jews, the al-Kitab, people of the book, or it does it in reference to what is what you call it, mabayna yadehi, what is between their hands. So if it does that 18 times and it never specifies exactly what this confirmation is referring to,
It is clearly defined. The confirmation is referring to Injil and Torah. Quran
oh, I agree.
already
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's about it. Some people might say it's more, but I'm happy just to say, yeah, it's the Torah and Injil because they're mentioned by name. So I'm happy to say it's those. So if it does confirm the Torah and Injil and never specifies in these verses, these 18 verses, what the confirmation is in reference to, then the way that language works is that would mean, just like if I said to you, I confirm the Quran. Now, if I never specify, I never say, but only this bit or only this bit, but not this bit, then you would naturally take that to mean I confirm the whole Quran, right? If someone came up to you and said, hello, I just want to let you know that I confirm the Quran,
Yeah.
and they said nothing else, what would you think they meant?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. When a Quran is telling what is Injil and Torah, Quran already defined what is Injil and Torah.
No,
It is
Umar,
said
the question Chris is asking. Umar, the question Chris is asking you is: if Chris said he confirms the Quran, what would you take from that statement?
Yeah, that's what I said. Quran mean it is a revelation given to Muhammad.
No, Umar, the question is, Chris is asking you, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, maybe I misunderstood. Chris is asking you, if Chris said he confirms the Quran, what would you take from that statement?
Yeah, first I will go to the definition of Quran. What is meant by Quran?
No, because you know what the Quran is. That's the
Yeah,
whole
I
point.
know. I know what.
If a Christian said to me, Chris, I confirm the Bible, and never elaborated, what do you think I'm going to think that means? I think that would mean the whole Bible, because they never said otherwise, and that's the normative way that you use those terms, right?
That's what I'm telling you. Quran do not
know
the whole Bible.
That's
Quran
what he's telling you.
That's what I'm telling you, I guess. But
he's
you agree with that.
But you haven't actually answered the question. Now that we've clarified what we mean, I'll ask you the question again, and I'd like you to answer the question, Umar. Chris asked you, he said, if he confirms the Quran, what would you understand from that statement? Now, the thing is, Umar, if you just filibuster and you avoid the question, people are obviously going to see that the question has impact. So just answer the question directly. If Chris said, I confirm the Quran, what would you understand from that statement?
Okay, that's what Bob I'm telling here. Okay, maybe you are not in the same page. Let me explain what we are coming to say. So when Bob says what Bob confirm the Quran, first thing I had to ask him, what do you mean by Quran? How do you define Quran? Because when Bob says something, it's based on his definition. So
no, it's not. It's not though, because when you have a conversation with someone, there's an understanding here. If I go up to a Muslim, and Muslims know what the Quran is, and I say, hey, I believe in the Quran, I confirm the Quran.
Okay.
It's not just my understanding that you're going to look at, you're going to use your understanding of it.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, right. But when it comes to Quran already defined the Injil. Quran not simply say I confirm the Injil. Quran already defined the Injil. That
Okay,
is
Can
the
you show me?
problem.
Do
Wait,
you mind,
okay.
Chris, if I could just ask Umar, could you show me where the Quran defines the Injil, please? Which verse in the Quran defines the Injil?
Quran clearly say Injil was given to Jesus, right? Right. So if that's mean what that is something given to Jesus. Your Bible
that's
is not something given to Jesus. So that is one of the definition.
So here's a problem here. The Quran also says that it's in a written form in the Hijaz at the time of Muhammad in the 7th century.
And also, just to add something,
Yeah.
just to add something, the Quran defines the Injil as
Also the
something that
Torah.
is given to Jesus. And the assumption that you're making is that the author of the Quran was accurate in their statements about the Injil. And in the sense that, let me finish. In the sense that he thought that Christians believe that. And that's obviously not what Christians
No, it doesn't need
believe.
to be. Right. Problem is, Bob. Okay. Yeah.
But
this is an internal critic. So you have to go with the Islamic sources. You cannot go to what they think, what they mean. That doesn't matter.
Just to add,
internal
wait,
critic
because
means
I know internal critique isn't going to help, because an internal critique, my friend, just means that we look at the sources of Islam, including those that it mentions, because the Torah and the Injil have a context, a historical context in 7th century Arabia with Christians and Jews, and we know what they had historically. So I can refer to history. I can refer to what the Ethiopians thought the gospel was, what the Yemenites thought the gospel was. I can look at Egypt and what they thought it was, because all these places, Muhammad, according to the Sunni perspective, had some kind of interaction with. So I can make a historical critique. So just because it's internal doesn't mean you have to sort of switch half of your brain off and go, no, I don't care what history says, because the Quran is history, because it really was revealed in a place and time through a real group of people that had an audience of at least some Christians and Jews.
So let me ask you, Umar, based on your argument, I'll let you respond, and then I'll make my point.
Okay. So first of all, Bob, yes, Quran just say 7th century Christian, they have the Injil. But the Quran did not say everything they have is Injil. So we agree they had Injil. Also, they had Torah. We don't say everything they have is Torah. So
but you've just gone back to your first point. This was the very first thing we brought up. I told you, if I say I confirm the Quran, what do I mean? So the Quran confirms the Torah and Gospel, and it never says, but only this bit, only this, not this. It never does that. So again, we're back to the first point.
No. When Quran say it was given to Jesus, then your Bible, entire Bible was not given to Jesus. It has some commandments that were given to Jesus. So Quran confirm whichever given to Jesus. So 7th century Christian had something which was given to Jesus. Let me finish. Okay, there was a narration, the Waraka ibn Nawfal. Okay, the same person who confirmed Muhammad is a prophet. He is talking about this Injil. He is telling the Injil was given to who? Jesus. Injil was brought down to Jesus from the angel Gabriel, and Waraka ibn Nawfal used to write it in Hebrew. So 7th century Christian had the concept Injil means something given to Jesus by the angel Gabriel. So that fits Islamic definition.
Let Chris respond now. Let Chris respond.
Really interesting. I think that's actually really problematic for you. Waraka ibn Nawfal, as a family member to Muhammad, through Khadija, his first wife, he supposedly wrote the Injil, whether there's some narrations that say Hebrew, some that say Arabic. The problem with this, though, is that according to your tradition and according to your Quran, Muhammad is mentioned in this Injil. He's prophesied in this Injil. You have, according to your tradition, the kryptonite to all Christians, because you can just take this Injil and show us all where Muhammad is prophesied. The unlettered prophet, the Ummi prophet that was mentioned in our gospel, according to Surah 7, Ayah 157. And yet, for some reason, in your tradition, this never survived. Muhammad's own family had this in their possession. They were never conquered, They actually went out and became conquerors. They conquered all of the Middle East, North Africa, coming up through Persia. They conquered all this land, and yet they couldn't preserve the many, presumably, different manuscripts they had of the Gospels that prophesied Muhammad.
And just think about this like a rational human being, Umar. you've just conquered and you're starting to colonize all these Christian and Jewish territories and these Zoroastrian territories, right? You're colonizing it. The populations that make up these places are filled with Christians. If you had an original gospel to show them and go, look, you've been lied to. Here's the original. Muhammad had it, and I'm Umar, or I'm Ali, or I'm Abu Bakr, and I can show you the real gospel. Why wouldn't you be doing that? Like, that would be the first thing you'd be showing to the Christians to go, hey, you've got the wrong gospel. And yet that's not what Muslims do or ever did.
There's no historical case of them ever doing this. They've never preserved this gospel and used it as a way of engaging with Christians to prove the prophecies of Muhammad. It's just not there. Even though the Quran tells you that's the case, Muslims never do it. And the reason why they don't do it is because I'm sorry, it's just not true. There is no evidence of such a thing ever existing. The early Muslims didn't believe they had this.
Okay. Right. I just want to point some out, Umar, and then we'll let you reply, and then we'll let Nata come in as well. So, Umar, we know what the 7th century gospel looked like. So I'm sure you're aware that there were 2 active churches on the Arabian Peninsula at the time of Muhammad, the Ethiopian church in the south and the Assyrian church in the north. The Ethiopian church have what are known as the Garima Gospels, right? Remembering that some of the companions of Muhammad went to Ethiopia. So the Garima Gospels, there's 2 of them. Scholars call them Garima 1 and Garima 2. And they're dated, Garima 1 is dated between 390 to 570 AD. And Garima 2 is dated between 530 and 660 AD. So these were the Gospels that Muslims were using at the time that these were the Gospels that these were the Gospels that Christians were using at the time of Islam's birth. We have them. They are 7th century documents. They still exist. You can get a Bible today and you can go and compare it to these Bibles. So when the Quran addresses Christians, it would have been addressing the Christians in that region. That would have been the Ethiopian Christians and the Assyrian Christians. The problem with your argument is for your argument to be sustained, you have to come up with a 3rd sect of Christians that are unique to the Arabian Peninsula, that history has no record of, that have maintained the original gospel. What is that group called? Who are those Christians called? I'd like you to answer that. Who are the Christians called that preserved the original gospel? So back to you, Umar. We'll let you speak, then we'll let Nota speak, and then we'll let this 3rd person who I can't see yet. This is for Muslims only, so if you're not a Muslim, please remove yourself, Matthew.
Okay, so I didn't just ask me multiple things, so I don't know.
Sorry, man. Can you guys hear me?
So over to you, Umar. Go on.
Okay, so I think Chris Bob, you asked me multiple things. I don't know how much time I have left. Or let me answer as far as I can.
You got over an hour.
Okay.
But
so,
not just to talk.
No, not just for you.
Not just for you, but you've got over an hour. So the question I'm asking you, who
I get it.
Christians.
Okay, before let me respond to Chris' question. Okay, first of all, Chris. Okay, Prophet Muhammad is dealing with the Christians of Arabia. Okay, so Warqa ibn Nawfal is a Christian from Mecca himself, not from Medina. Okay, also when Muhammad is challenging these Christians, I mentioned in your book, in your Injil, no one denied that one. In fact, there are so many narrations. There's one narration, Prophet Muhammad used to say one Christian, okay, I mentioned in your book. So that person denied. Then his son said, no, you are mentioned in the book. So that person's son confirmed you are mentioned in the book. Right? Also, we have some.
Just
okay,
makes
so
my point.
not one. There's one more point. Okay, there was a mention a Christian. He said, so Muhammad said, I'm mentioned in your book. So that Christian said, yes, a prophet is mentioned, but also it is mentioned he will have 70,000 followers who will enter heaven. But Muhammad, you don't have even 100 followers. So these Christians are interacting. They are telling, yes, someone is mentioned with 70,000 followers, but you don't have 100 followers. So these are evidence. There was some part of Injil which were left, which indicates someone who will come with 70,000 followers, but you don't have it today. That prove my case, because this is an internal critique. We have evidence from our sources. These portions were existed. You don't have it today. That prove my case.
Okay.
Also, your
Can
New
I-
Testament, has the same concept of Injil. That something was given to Jesus, the word of God given to Jesus. Don't lie. Your New Testament says
We're
Injil
going
was
to be
given to
talking
Jesus.
about Islamic
Jesus,
dilemma, and we're not changing the topic. Just to be clear.
but that's the definition of Injil. Jesus was teaching gospel to Galilee. How can Jesus teach in the Bible? Just common sense, right?
No.
I don't think you missed.
Don't respond to the latter point. Stick to the
Alright.
Islamic dilemma.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so
I'll let you
just to
respond to that, Chris, and then I'm going to let Nata
The others
speak and
jump
Matthew
in.
speak.
Sure. Yeah, just real quick. I think you just made it worse because you pointed out how there were Christians and Jews who did recognize Muhammad, supposedly mentioned in what they had in the 7th century Arabia. Well, again, if that's the case, then why on earth didn't the early ulama, like the scholars, the tabi'un, why didn't they do the same thing? Why don't we have accounts of the caliphs taking a huge emphasis on preserving the Injil, which Waraka ibn Nawfal supposedly wrote as part of Muhammad's family? Why wasn't that preserved and then many copies of it made to refute Christians and to bring them into believing Muhammad is a prophet, because it's written in their books apparently? Like I mean, if you
Shall
look
I
at the
respond?
no,
Let me
I'm not finished. You said a few things. I'll say a few things. Also, the early Islamic scholars, they acknowledged that what they had was what we have today. Some of the earliest material you have, Btbsoco, we don't have his word extant, but we have it through Ibn Hisham. He talks about the Gospel of John. Like, funny enough, that's what we have today. So when we look at how your early scholars looked at what the Torah and Injil was, they identified it as what we have today. The Quran itself identifies the gospel that we have today. The Quran in Surah Al-Maryam, Surah 19, and Surah Al-Imran, it quotes from Luke chapter 1 when it talks about Zechariah and his wife having the birth of Yahya, John the Baptist. That's in Luke 1, but it's also in the Quran. So biographical material is present in the Quran that happens to be in our gospel accounts. Your own scholars knew this, and they identified the Torah and gospel in the Arabia to be what we have today, and they looked to try and find prophecies of Muhammad in there. And that's why you have the whole idea that the Parakletos, that's actually Muhammad. That the entire reason you guys think that is because your early scholars tried to find Muhammad in the gospel that we have today.
Yeah, they were using our gospel.
Yeah, they use our.
Muhammad in our gospel.
There are tons of it. It's everywhere.
Chris, I just want to bring in Nata and Matthew, and I just want to be clear. This chat is only for Muslims. So if you're not a Muslim, please remove yourself. And I'm still waiting for a question. Not you, but I just want to make it clear. I'm still waiting for an answer to my question. We know which Christians were active in the Arabian Peninsula. For Umar's argument to work, who was this new
Sorry,
Christian
but I
group?
just say something.
Matthew, are you a Christian? No, wait.
Yes, I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian. I just wanted to say one thing.
Stop. No.
I just wanted to say one thing, bro. Brother, please, brother.
Matthew, sorry.
Wow. Yo, bro. What?
Seriously, what part of only Muslims don't people understand?
He was very eager. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, guys. I was very clear. It's only Muslims are to come on and chat. So I'll let Nata speak, but I just want to say, if you're not a Muslim, Nata, please leave. And I would like an answer to my question: who are these third group of Christians, that are being identified as possessing the original preserved gospel in the 7th century that the Quran talks about? Over to you, Nota. Nota.
Yeah. Or not me?
No.
There's another.
Can you not see the screen, Omar? There's another guy in the chat. Nota, this is your chance. Going once. This is your chance, Nota. Going twice. This is your chance, Nota.
Me?
Oh, yeah, we go.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Nota in the chat. Nota,
there is no such thing. Of course, alhamdulillah.
Right, go on. Tell us.
There is no such thing. There is no such thing as the Islamic dilemma.
We beg to differ.
We beg to differ. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're assuming that the Quranic author does not know what the Christians were saying.
No, I've said throughout this that the Quran author does know what Christians and Jews were saying, but he doesn't know the text.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you agree that it's fair that the Christians would preach what the text say?
Well, no, they said a lot of things, not just preaching, but also speaking, right? There's homilies,
Okay.
there's stories of the Bible that they would say to their children. You know, like there's many different types of talking about biblical texts without, you know, necessarily quoting it directly.
And it would obviously depend upon the level of the learning that the author of the Quran is speaking to. So, you know, just like there's lots of ignorant Muslims out there in the world, there are also lots of ignorant Christians out there in the world. And if the author of the Quran is speaking to an ignorant Christian, he's going to pick that up. And if he is not knowledgeable enough to know the difference, he's going to absorb whatever that Christian says.
Okay. What is the one thing that the Christians who lived in Arabia, maybe in Syria, the regions that the Quranic author would have access to or travel to, what is the one thing that would be a consensus that they were all preaching, and you know you would and it's based on the text, that the one thing that it's impossible to miss, whether it's in the text, whether it's in the preaching, but like something that Christians all agree on.
Do you mean Orthodox Christians? You mean like Christians as in Nicene Creed, Trinitarian believing Christians, right?
Not even them.
No. No. Hold on one second.
No.
Only Christians that believe in the Trinity are Christians.
Yeah.
So
I think I know where you're going.
Orthodox Christians, the Orthodox Christians, and even heretical groups who would maybe have a less Christological view about Jesus. Like the whole of them, all of the groups that were living there, including the Orthodox Christians.
You'd be surprised because there are heretical groups that have very differing views on even core doctrines. That's why they're heretical. So, for example, you have Docetists that held a very interesting view about Jesus's nature, and they would proclaim that he's like a phantom. And then, so when they talk about Christ's crucifixion in the Gospels, they'll talk about it very differently to how Orthodox, Trinitarian, Nicene Creed believing Christians would. So even in things that you would think, oh, well, you know, every single person who's heard or read this is going to have the same view on. No, heretical groups will take differing views, even then.
Okay, what's the percentage?
What he's probably trying to do is he's trying to say, how could the Quran get something so basic like the crucifixion wrong? It'll say
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
See, I knew where you were going. Which is why I wanted to make that point, that you can't even say things like this because there were Docetists. There were people that had differing views on what the crucifixion was and what that actually showed. So again, if you're talking about Orthodox Christians, then yes, we're aligned on what that was. But if you talk about every person in history at any time, including hereticals, no, you'll see all sorts of different views.
But
and maybe the Quran.
To be clear, I don't see how this gets the Quran out of the Islamic dilemma, because the argument is about the text. So it's about what the Bible teaches. It's about what the Injil teaches. You know, and like what exactly about this argument, Nota, do you think gets the Quran out of affirming the Injil and then contradicting the Injil?
Okay, the argument is the vast majority of Christians who lived in Arabia or in Syria, in the Levant at this time, that would be either Trinitarian Orthodox Christians, or maybe some Nestorians, or any other group that would still hold to the general conception of Christianity. I mean, Jesus is divine, and he got crucified as a sin atonement for humanity. The Docetics and all of these other groups, you would be lucky to find a tiny percentage of them. So it would be likely to expect that the Quranic author encountered much more of these Orthodox Christians rather than a very small sectarian group that he would listen to.
Yeah.
That's the point. So, and these Orthodox Christians and even non-Orthodox, like the Nestorians and stuff like that, they would hold to the traditional view of the crucifixion of Jesus, which is found in the text. The Quranic author is aware of that. He is aware that these Christians, majority, are preaching the traditional crucifixion narrative, and he disagrees with that. He disagrees. He explicitly engages and disagrees with that, which is found in the text. He knows this is what the
Christian argument. I get your argument, but allow me to reply, because that is
Go
the
ahead.
Islamic dilemma. As I understand it, I mean, Chris is the expert, but as I understand it, that is the Islamic dilemma, because the Quran is affirming that the Bible is true and then contradicting it. Like you're contradicting something that you're affirming. So maybe you can answer the question that Umar wouldn't answer.
I will.
If I and Chris said to you, we affirm the Quran, what would you understand by that?
It depends.
On, go
What
would you understand by the words? What would you understand by the words that we affirm?
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I just want to say something. I will never cut you off or something like that. Like this is a principle that I hold to. If you want me to stop talking, just you tell me, and I'm going to stop talking.
Sure.
I hate that. So this is something that I deeply hold to. So yes, this affirmation that you are speaking about, it could be a complete affirmation or partial or a general affirmation, and I can give you a good example that you can find in Matthew 23 verses 2 and 3.
I just want you to answer my question. Actually, if I said to you, I affirm the Quran, what would you understand from that?
It depends.
Well, just take those words.
Let's make it really basic. Okay, there's a person you meet. He walks past you on the street. He looks at you and goes, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know I confirm the Quran." And then he carries on walking. You don't talk to him again. What do you think?
If it's only that.
Yeah, because
if it's only he said, I would.
He never elaborates.
Absolutely agree with you. If he only said that, I would agree with you that he would mean that you have to affirm the Quran holistically. Granted.
I agree with you. I agree with you, because if a Christian did the same to me about the Bible, I would think he means the whole Bible, right?
Yeah,
I will grant that.
I don't think he believes the Bible, yeah.
Exactly, right. The Quran in 18 different places uses the Arabic word musaddiq to refer to what the al-Kitab, the people of the book, had with them. And it confirms what is with them. And it never says this, but not this, only this bit, not this bit, not the crucifixion, not this one. All those places, those 18 times in the Quran that it does this, it never specifies.
I grant you this. I totally grant you. If someone comes to me and says, let's say, for example, in your religion comes in, and he says, you know what, I affirm the Quran, I would gladly grant you that you will understand that he holistically affirms that, meaning every single bit of the Quran, unless he gives more context to it.
Yeah, I agree.
If someone, for example, he affirms the Quran, so you know what, I affirmed the Quran, and then we get to talk a lot, and I see that he modifies some precepts of the Quran. I would not understand that he's holistically confirming the Quran. So the same thing what Jesus does in Matthew. Go ahead.
Let's take that in practice, right? Because I think that's a good standard. So let's do it, right? Okay. So random stranger comes up to you on the street and says, "Hey, man, I confirm the Quran. I also think that there are 3 gods or 10 gods." Yeah. Okay. What do you think about that person right now? Do you think he does confirm the Quran, but he also,
or do you think he doesn't understand it,
or do you think he's made an error?
If he in this specific thing that you said, I would gladly say that he did not understand the Quran.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I would say something.
No, and I have a reason for that.
Does not understand the biblical text.
Yeah. No. Can I? And I have a reason for that.
I'll let you reply. Go ahead. I'll let you reply.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm not going to cut you. Go ahead.
I'll let you reply to Chris, and then I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay. The reason why I'm saying that is because the Quran explicitly rejects uh, any kind of Trinitarian ideas. Whether the Gospels do not teach the Trinity, you're assuming that the Gospels teach the Trinity. Which is not the case, and the reason why I'm saying that because you have four different authors. Let's grant the traditional narratives of each gospel was written by an individual from himself, from his perspective. Let's grant it, which is obviously not the case by consensus of scholars, but let's grant it for a second. You have four different authors, and the Trinity, obviously, according to Christians, is the most important Christian concept ever. You would expect this most important concept, the number one, not secondary, the number one thing. You would just expect it to show up in this gospel. At least one of them, whether Peter, who's the author of the Gospel of Mark, because Mark knows Peter, or Matthew or John.
Wait,
No.
let him finish.
Yeah, you would expect at least one of them to remember this one time when Jesus told them that he was God, for example. It does not show up. So the Quran does not go against the Gospels. Go ahead.
So the point is, the point is, I mean, the Gospels most certainly do show the Trinity, but that isn't the topic, and we're not changing the topic. And the fact that the Quran gets the Trinity wrong and says that Christians believe in three gods, only strengthens our position that the author of the Quran was not familiar with what he was tackling, whilst at the same time affirming what he was tackling. Because he's saying, and I'll give you an example of why Chris and I land on this position.
Go ahead.
So in Surah 5, Ayah 47, it says, "Let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah hath revealed therein." Now, if what the Christians had, the Injil, the people of the gospel, that's the Christians, if they are being asked to judge by something that is corrupt, then that makes absolutely no sense. Because you and Muslims today do not tell us Christians to judge by the gospel. You tell us that we can't trust the gospel, it's being corrupt, so we should trust the Quran. But Allah, in contradiction to what Muslim Dawagandists say today, is telling the Christians of the 7th century to judge by what Allah hath revealed therein, the people of the gospel. So it's talking about the gospel. And that only makes sense as a command if they actually possess it. So my question to you is twofold. Who are the people of the gospel? Okay, that's the first question.
Yeah.
Who are the people of the gospel? And
that would be the Christians.
Thank you. So the Christians, okay, and we know who
they are. Let me
finish now.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So we know who they are. They are the Ethiopians in the southern part of the peninsula, and they're the Assyrians in the northern part of the peninsula. And that we know what they were using, and this is really important for you, Nota. We know what they're using because we've got 7th century manuscripts held by these churches. And so, for example, the Syriac Peshitta, we've got a 7th century copy of it. It's called the Biblioteca Ambrosiana. You can go and visit it in Milan. You can see it with your own eyes. Okay. It's called Codex Ambrosianus 7A1. Okay. So we can see what these people were reading, and it is like this, the Bible that I'm holding in my hand. So if Allah is commanding them to judge by that document, then Allah is confirming that document as reliable. So over to you. What was the gospel that they were reading? What gospel were Christians reading in the 7th century?
Thank you very much. I'm going to answer you blatantly honest. The gospels that the people used back then, whether it's in Arabia, whether it's in Yemen, in Ethiopia, in Syria, in the Anatolia, there would be pretty much the same gospels that we have today. I do not hold to the view that there was a magical gospel who was, I don't know, was was like written in the time of Jesus or by his disciples just after, and then he was magically preserved and magically found in Arabia. This is I genuinely do not get it why Muslims still use this argument. It's not a good argument. There is not a shred of evidence to support that. It's just not a good argument at all. It doesn't hold up in light of the evidence that we have. I know why they do that, but it's just not a good argument. And I think it's quite laughable, to be quite honest with you.
Well,
I do not hold.
You just to jump in real quick there. Sorry, but it is.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You would have to say that the Bible today has revelation in it. That's
I have to say what
happens if you don't accept that view. If you say no, there is no alternative. The Quran really is referring to what we have today. Even if you talk about corruption, you still have to ultimately accept that in the Bible today there is revelation from Allah in it.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, there's the Bible, and here's the point. And this is from a scholarly perspective. Like, this is not me making this up. I'm not making this up. The Bible, whether it's the Tanakh, I don't call it the Old Testament because it's not the Old Testament. It's the Hebrew Bible or the Law and the Prophets. Is even the New Testament. I mean, the New Testament less, but it's, generally speaking, it's well preserved. Like, it's not as the people, even the seculars and atheists, they have this idea that it's completely corrupted and it's lost, and when we don't know what it's saying, it's actually, for example, the scrolls of Isaiah are remarkably well preserved, like very, very well preserved. And if there's a guy saying that it's not the case, he's either lying or he does not have enough knowledge to comment on that. Sure, there are variants in Isaiah, for example, and they have been counted. It would be around, if I'm not mistaken, it would be around 2,000 and something. It's not really that bad. So the OT and the NT are fairly well preserved. The OT is better preserved than the NT. However, this does not mean that everything that is found in this text or original. This is not the case, and even you guys know that. For example, the long ending of Mark, some of the stuff that's found in John. There's a lot of things that are debated amongst scholarship, whether they were original or not. Some of them are consensus that they were not original.
Are they trustworthy?
This does not. I would say yes, of course they are trustworthy. So especially Mark, Matthew.
One second. If you accept, Nota, that they are trustworthy, and Allah, your God, tells us to judge by them, how are we to judge about whether Christ was crucified?
Thank you.
That he was or that he wasn't, according to the gospel? Because remember, Allah is saying, "Let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah hath revealed therein." So, the gospel that we have is very well preserved. It is trustworthy.
It's fairly well preserved. It's fairly not very well preserved. It's fairly well preserved. It means let's say it's fairly. It's not that well preserved, but it's fairly well preserved.
Do you have any manuscripts that deny the crucifixion that you can think of?
No. Every single gospel, every single manuscript holds to the traditional crucifixion narrative.
Yeah, right. So the thing is, if we're talking about corruption, as you well know, textual variants are very well evidenced. They're very well documented, and none of them include a variance that would deny the crucifixion. So that's part of the stable text historically. That's just a fact. You might not like the fact, but it's a fact. So it's part of the stable text. So the point is, if you're saying that it's being corrupted, and the Quran is saying that we are to judge by it, and we accept that, things like the long ending of Mark are possible corruptions, and 1 John 5:7 are possible corruptions. Well, the stable part of the text, the reliable bit of the text, is the crucifixion. And Allah's asking us to judge by it. So that means we have to deny the Quran, and that's the Islamic dilemma.
And this is I just want to put it between brackets like that. Like I'm not here to bullshit you or to waste your time or propose.
I understand.
Huh?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, like or to propose some far-fetched theories or some shit that it's just not tenable. And I'm French Canadian, so my English is not that good. But anyway, yes, I agree that the crucifixion narratives are most likely in the original compositions. Maybe some very, very small variants that were not really that important, but they are in the original narratives, and most likely they were preserved this way till the Gospels that we have today. Absolutely granted, I have no issue with that at all. The thing is, whether the Christians believe in a crucified Jesus or not, whether you believe he was crucified or not, it still would not have any kind of hindering. Do we say hinder? Hindering is that a word? No.
No. The hinge of the argument.
No. Like hindering means. I mean, in my mind, it means to cause problem. No.
Injure.
Injure.
Yeah.
Just take another run at the sentence, bro. Just take another run
Yeah.
at the sentence. Go on.
Okay. Meaning whether you believe the crucifixion happened or not, whether you believe or not, even if you adhere to the crucifixion narrative, it still would not cause a problem to your theology or soteriology. It still would not cause problem to it.
That's getting off the topic, because the crucifixion is part of the stable text. We've acknowledged that the crucifixion narratives are part of the stable part of the Gospels, and over 99% of the Gospels are stable text. Okay, it's like 1% that's part of the variable text. But the crucifixions, and every biblical scholar is going to agree with me on this, that the crucifixion narratives are part of the stable text, i.e., they are the essential part of the Gospels and original. And Allah is saying that we are to judge by what Allah has revealed. Now, what Allah has revealed is the stable bit, the bit that hasn't been changed. And the stable bit we've acknowledged historically is the crucifixion. So if we are to judge by the Gospels, then the Quran is false, because the Quran says there was no crucifixion. But it affirms the Gospels as something that we should judge by.
Mm-hmm. I have here the verse. I think it's 547, right?
It is 547, yeah. And then I'll let Chris talk, because he's my guest and I'm taking up all the oxygen.
It's good. It's good. I like where it's going.
No problem at all. I mean, whether it's Chris or Bob, I have no issue talking to any one of you. It's not really a problem for me. Well, I have here the verse. Okay, it says وَلْيَحْكُمْ أَهْلِ الْإِنْجِيلِ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ, and let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed therein. Would it be fair to say that this verse refers in its context to the four gospels?
It refers to the gospel, yeah.
No, it refers to people to look at the four gospels that they have.
Well, I mean, I've got my own theory on this, so it might take us down a bit of a tangent, and I want to let you land on your argument, and then I want to let Chris come in. So go on, you expand your argument.
Yeah, let me just 527 Quran. My keyboard does not work, so I have to use my mouse. Okay. Quran, what's the website? What is the website I used to? Is it this one? Oh yeah, it's this one. Okay. Okay. What's 547, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then, in the footsteps of the prophets, we sent Jesus, the son of Mary, confirming the Torah revealed before him, and we gave him the gospel. What in this specific instance, what it says, and we gave him the gospel, it could not refer to the four gospels. I'm talking this specific verse. When it says, and we gave him the gospel, it simply cannot refer to the four gospels because they were written later, and it's more like of a biographical material. In this specific instance,
wait.
it's pretty.
I gotta jump on you there because you've added some stuff there. So you said it can't possibly be talking about,
Of course.
what Jesus gave because it's written down at a later point.
No, it's and we gave him the gospel.
Yeah, what Jesus gave, and what was given to him. So that was written down, and that contains biographical material. So it can't possibly be the same of what we have today. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I didn't say that. I said that when it says, and we gave him the gospel, it's incoherent to say that Jesus was given his own biographical material to preach.
So you don't think Moses was given his own biographical material to preach, or Muhammad was given his own biographical material to preach?
No, of course not. The Quran is not a biography. The historical Muhammad was not preaching his own life, and we know it because we have the Quran.
He does, though, in the Quran. In the Quran, there are things specifically given to Muhammad to address a situation he is in right then and there that's going on in his life.
Yeah. These are like situational things about how to act about something, and it usually ends up with a moral story or in order to do such thing or not. But it's not like he is that tall or he is this thing or.
What's the difference here? Because ultimately, it's still content that is talking about Muhammad's life, saying this is what's happening to you right now, Muhammad. You are to do this, or you're to say this, and respond like this. That's still biographical details. I mean, the Quran gives biographical accounts about lots of prophets. I don't see that's problematic. And likewise, the traditional view would be that Moses was given his own biographical account in the Torah. So, do you deny that?
Moses was given his own biography. No, the Torah is mainly the original understanding of the Torah would be the law. It was the law that Moses received in Mount Sinai, and the Jews hold that Moses received both the written law and the oral law. Moses was not receiving revelation about his life. Same thing with Jesus.
Can I just add real quickly? So when the Quran talks about the life of Moses, the biographical account of who he was, what he did, so on and so forth, where is the Quran getting that from?
From the Bible?
Well, yeah.
I mean, from a historical perspective. Wait. From a historical perspective, it would be from the Bible, of course. But if you ask a Muslim, I would say it's from Allah. But from a historical perspective, yes, these stories would come from the Bible.
But my point is that when the Quran engages with a group of people, there's now two voices you need to listen to, right? Supposedly Allah, because he's revealing the Quran, but also the Jews and how they understand what they're hearing. So when Allah is telling them the story of Moses, and suspiciously the same story is what they already have in their Torah, what do you think the Quran's trying to do? It's affirming what they have as the story of Moses. It's telling you, yeah, you guys have the story of Moses. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, great. So, yeah, the story of the Torah does contain biographical accounts of Moses and other prophets.
But also, if
sorry, you said the Torah contains what?
Biographical accounts. Moses.
Yeah. Here's what I have to intercede.
Okay.
The Torah can be used in multiple ways, and even to the Jews themselves. The Jews, they would say the Torah referring to the whole Hebrew Bible. They would say the Torah referring to the 5 books. And they would say the Torah referring to the law itself only. Meaning, if a rabbi tells you you have to obey the Torah, he means you have to obey the law. It's incoherent for him to say you have to obey the Torah in a sense that you have to obey that Moses' hand was white. It's very incoherent. You don't obey a story, you obey a law. The word obey has a specific meaning.
You do obey a story.
Oh, hold on. No, Nota, because I think it's not kind of dealing with 547, right? Because your argument is essentially Jesus wouldn't be given a biography of himself, but you accept that the gospel. But no, that's your argument. I thought you said that Christ was not receiving his own biography according to the Quran.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, but the Quran is affirming in the 7th century that the people of the book, the Christians, as you've already acknowledged, should obey the gospel, and the gospel is referring to the biographies.
Yeah.
This is where it gets interesting. Because when you look at these gospels,
this is, and I do want to pursue this argument, but I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for an answer to my question, which is that those biographies, the stable part of the text says that Christ was crucified. Right? That's the undeniable bit of this argument. Okay, that's the stable part of the narrative. It is original. Okay, and the gospel that is being spoken of in 547 is the gospel of the 7th century Christians, of which I've given them two historical manuscripts dated from the 7th century.
Already granted.
One owned by the Assyrian church, one owned by the Ethiopian church. Both were active in the 7th century. And the Quran is speaking to those Christians, and he is saying that they should judge by the gospel, which only makes sense if they know what the gospel is, i.e., it's the thing that they possess in their own hands, and that says that Christ was crucified. So if they are to judge by that, the Quran is wrong. And that's the Islamic dilemma, because it is affirming that which contradicts the Quran. Do you get it?
Yeah, I know your argument. Yeah, of course, I know. I know that. I know this is the argument. However, the whole Quran is not only this verse. Obviously, the same Quranic author still speaks with these same Christians, that he was speaking to, and he told them what he thinks happened in the crucifixion event. And the gospel, when the Quran always quotes the gospel, it always quotes what Jesus was saying. And if you look at Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, let's see, for example, when you look at these gospels, Jesus said always he's preaching the gospel of the coming kingdom of God. Is it fair to say that in these accounts that you have, the gospel, the good news, Evangelion, and Injil would be Jesus saying the coming of the kingdom of God?
Are you talking about, just to clarify, are you talking about from my perspective or the Quranic perspective?
From the perspective of these accounts that we have.
The Gospels, definitely. In the Gospels, the biographies of Christ, the good news that Christ taught was the coming of the kingdom of God. Absolutely.
Exactly. So Jesus was going around the synagogues in his time, in his place, preaching about the coming of the kingdom of God. This is what Jesus himself, the historical Jesus, had the idea of what the gospel and the good news is, which is the coming kingdom of God.
Do you understand that to be part of the stable corpus?
I agree. I know. So
right.
This is what
because you got yourself into a problem here. You got yourself into a double problem, because that's not the understanding of the Quran. When it talks about Christ getting the Injil, according to the Quran, the Injil that Isa receives confirms the Torah and modifies some of its laws. So it makes some of what was formerly haram halal and makes some of what was formerly halal haram. Agreed?
Of course, it's right. Part of it.
Right. So now let me press you this argument. Now let me press this argument a little bit further, please. If you will entertain me. Jesus was a prophet to the Jews, correct?
Absolutely.
Jesus brought the Jews the Injil, correct?
True.
So who are the Christians then, according to the Quran? Because Jesus was a Jewish prophet to the Jews who brought a Jewish book to the Jewish people, and yet Christians are not Jews according to the Quran. So who are the Christians?
Okay. I just want to add something before I answer that. From a Quranic perspective, the good news, it's in chapter 61, verse 6. The good news is Jesus announcing a future messenger to come after him. This is what the Quran portrays as being.
And other things as well.
And other things as well.
Of course.
Yeah,
but the main thing, the main thing
Christians.
Yeah,
because just think logically, right? Just think logically, because there's a problem in the Quran that people haven't picked up on. The Quran affirms that Jesus was the Messiah, a Jewish prophet sent to the Jews. He brings the Injil, which confirms the Torah and makes corrections to it. It prophesies a future coming prophet, which is the good news. And so he's sent to the Jews. He reveals a book to the Jews that is taken in by Jewish followers. So why then does the Quran identify the gospel with this other group called Christians when Jesus had no interaction with any group called Christians, or ever founded a religion called Christianity, or ever created an ummah called the Christians? And yet the Quran affirms that the Injil was given to the Christians when that's not the Quranic story.
Yeah, this is actually a good question. Okay, really, this is a really good one. Here's the thing: the Quran refers to the Christians as Nasara. It does not say Christians, because the word Christians in Arabic, and you would actually understand it even if you don't speak Arabic. It's al-Masihiyin. Al-Masihiyin, as you may understand, it comes from the word what?
Messiah, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very understandable. Even an English speaker like you would understand it. Al-Masihiyin is Christians. However, the Quran does not use al-Masihiyin, not even once. It uses the word al-Nasara. Al-Nasara is Nazarenes, the Nazarenes. Jesus himself, if we looked at, for example, at the book of Acts, when it was speaking of the follower of Jesus as the sect of the Nazarenes, this is the historical word of the early groups of people who followed Jesus, how they called themselves. They called themselves
Christians.
Of course, yeah. But from a Quranic,
is the Quran addressing us as Christians?
From a Quranic perspective, it addresses the Christians as the Nazarenes.
Did the Christians receive? Did the Christians receive the Injil?
And it does not say that the Nazarenes of the time of Jesus received the gospel.
No. In the 7th century, the Quran is
in the 7th century, yes,
it's addressing Christians, and we all know who they are.
Of course.
In the first
I grant you that.
In the first century, Christ goes to the Jews. He doesn't go to anyone called Christians. So why then does the Quran address Christians as people of the book when they never received a book, when they never preserved a book, when they never received a prophet? Do you see my point? The Quran,
I see your point.
Getting its own history mixed up. It's talking about a Jewish prophet, a Jewish Messiah who brings a Jewish book to Jews whose followers were all Jews, and then suddenly identifies that book with Christians when there's no such group according to the Quran.
This is the thing, because the Jewish follower of Jesus, although they were Jews, they were basically Messianic Jews. They had a separate identity from the mainstream Jews. They had a separate, and they called themselves the Nazarenes. And this is attested in the book of Acts. They called themselves the sect of the Nazarenes. they had their own distinct. They separated themselves as a messianic group, follower of Jesus, separately from the mainstream, the mainstream Judaism that was at this time. Although there were still Jews, they still held to the religion of Judaism, but they added a distinct identity to them, and they called themselves the Nazarenes, the sect of the Nazarenes, to be quite frankly. And the Quran picks on this identity, on this specific identity. I do not see I think actually the Quran is quite remarkable on this, because the Quran gives you the original name of the original sect of the historical Jesus. So it's not really a problem.
It is a problem, but I don't feel you've got an answer, and I will let Chris. That answer didn't really address my point at all, to be honest.
It's not convincing to us, I'm afraid.
Do you want to come in, Chris?
Yeah, I just want to ask: does the Quran teach that Christians can have salvation if they follow the gospel?
Not sure about that. No. Do you know the verse? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Surah 569.
Surah 569. Give me a second, okay?
Yeah, sure. Bob, if you can bring it on the screen, that'd be good. Otherwise, I can bring it up.
Surah 5. Okay, and I said 5, Quran. Okay. Surah 5. 69. Okay. Indeed, the believers, Jews, Sabians, Christians who truly believe in Allah and the last day and does good, there will be no fear for them, nor they will grieve. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والذين نصروا من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. It does not say that the Christians who obey the gospel and stuff like that. It just says indeed the believers, the Jews and the Sabians, which is maybe some kind of group.
Christians.
Yeah, and Nasara who. What's that? What's this? Okay, anyway, who believed in الذين آمنوا. This is in the past tense. I don't know why the verse says believes.
Sure. Yeah.
Who believed in Allah and the last day, and they did good deeds. فلا خوف عليهم. There is no fear about them or concerning them.
Okay,
ولا هم يحزنون.
This to me seems really clear that before the Quran, there would have been Christians and Jews and Sabians who would have been able to follow their scriptures and had some form of salvation. They could have gone.
I agree with that.
You agree with that? Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, now, if the Christians had the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that we know they were following in the 7th century in the Hijaz and all around the Arabian Peninsula and elsewhere, in all of Christendom, how could they have followed Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and come to an Islamic understanding of salvation? How could they do that before the Quran came?
Yeah, this is something that I myself noticed. And this is like I'm going to tell you a little bit of a personal story that is very, very, very connected to that. When I was a student, like 2 years or a year ago, I used to do Uber in part time to pay for my stuff. I used to talk with a lot of Christians who would enter, my Uber and question them and stuff like that. What I noticed about their understanding of salvation is they would always like tell you to do good and repent and ask for forgiveness in a unknowingly speaking. Like it's as if it was installed in them as a program. And I'm not making this up. Literally, every time I speak to a Christian and we talk about salvation, he would tell you, yeah, you gotta repent, you gotta ask for forgiveness, and you gotta do good. Even if they add the atonement stuff, meaning Jesus died for their sins, which is fine. Even if they add it, they would still intrinsically have this idea within them that repentance and asking for forgiveness and doing good is very, very important. And the reason why is because it is in the Injil.
Yeah.
If you look at what Jesus says, wait a second.
Right.
And if you look at the Gospels, what Jesus presents as a means of salvation, it's always about repentance. It's always about asking for forgiveness and doing good deeds and stuff like that. So yes, you still could come to the understanding of the Islamic salvation, even if you didn't have the Quran.
So I hope Chris, come back in. Come back in.
Really go. Did you like left or
No,
what?
I tried to remove some from the back of stage that Chris was trying to share, and accidentally.
You tried to do what?
Did you remove?
Sorry. I did. I'm so sorry.
Okay, it's back.
It's just listening, and then all of a sudden I got kicked out. I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
Sorry, I was just trying to remove something that you'd shared backstage. So, anyway, do you want to reply, Chris?
Yeah. So, first of all, every Christian is going to say the atonement is an essential part of what it means to accept the gospel, right? But also, you said, there is all this other stuff, right? There's the good deeds that Christians are capable of doing that you can find in the gospel, and that could be a reasonable way in which a Christian might enter into Jannah from perhaps. Sorry.
Yeah, the good deeds, the repentance, and asking for forgiveness.
Prayer, maybe. Okay. But here's the problem, though. According to the Quran, what is shirk?
Shirk is associating partners with Allah.
Okay. Does Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John in any way associate partners with God?
I would agree with you that Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, they have, even though they have different Christologies, but yes, I would agree that there is some kind of higher Christology than what the Quran has.
They're making partners in some form, whatever you want to say that is. We don't need to agree with the Orthodox position. We don't even need to touch that. We can just say the Gospels clearly teach Jesus in some way inappropriately being given the names, the titles, or the attributes of God in a way that is not appropriate from a Quranic perspective. Sitting on the throne of God.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
I agree with that. I agree with that. Even this is I think this is quite it's a broad consensus scholarly position that the gospel, even Mark, Matthew, and Luke, have some sort of divinization, if I can say that, if that's a word even to begin with, of divinization of Jesus to some sort.
Okay, that's fine. Doesn't need to go any further than that. That's all I need to establish here. So if the Quran on the one hand says that actually if you follow as a Christian the gospel, the Injil, you can have salvation, but on the other hand, it actually tells you, no. If you commit shirk by associating partners with Allah, you will not go into Jannah at all. That is the unforgivable sin if you die in that. Then I think that makes no sense. I don't think the Quran can in one way say you actually, Bob, if you can bring up the screen again that you were sharing, look at the very previous verse, because the very previous verse is actually one of these verses that Christians keep going to as part of the Islamic Dilemma. If you click on continue, Bob, and then
right, hold on.
So this is where we test Bob's technical skills.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
We got trouble now. Let's see, can you do it?
Let's see if I just destroy everything.
Okay, and hopefully
have
it
I
takes
continued?
You. That's it, and then look at the
68.
verse, scroll up.
Scroll up.
It's 68. Yeah.
Let's see when it comes.
Let me read it.
Here we go.
I'll read it.
Let me read it.
Say, O Prophet, O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the Gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord, and your Lord's revelation to you. O Prophet, will only cause many of them to increase in wickedness and disbelief, so do not grieve for the people who disbelieve.
So my point here is that the very next verse goes on to talk about how Christians and Jews can have salvation. They can actually, if they believe in Allah, the last day, they do righteousness, they will not fear nor will they grieve. Yet the very previous verse tells us how do they do that? Well, they have to follow the Torah and Gospel. And all that has come to them from their Lord. So yeah, the Quran's in there as well. But my point is that this is clearly a binding instruction on Christians to follow the Gospel. And if they do follow the Gospel, what happens? Again, past tense, like you said. So let's say 100 years before the Quran was even revealed, right?
Even 1 year.
Even earlier, maybe. There's a Christian somewhere.
10 years, 20 years.
20 years,
No,
100
no,
years, however many years.
1 minute. Let's
one
make it
second.
tighter.
There's a Christian somewhere who has the Gospel of Matthew, right? And he's reading it, and he believes this is from God, and he believes he ought to follow this, right? The Quranic account, which hasn't been revealed yet, but will later, is going to say that, yes, he should follow that Gospel of Matthew he has. And if he does follow it faithfully, he will get to Jannah, because he will believe in Allah, the last day, do righteousness, and so on. But it also says, and this is where I think it's incoherent, it says that if you ascribe shirk or partners to Allah, then you've committed the unforgivable sin and you're not going into Jannah. So the Quran here is basically done two things. It said, you have an obligation, Christian, to read the Gospel of Matthew and follow it faithfully. If you don't, you will go to hellfire, which is what Surah 547 says. But this verse says, if you do this, you will go to heaven because it's salvific. And then there's another verse in the Quran that says, but if you associate, then you'll go to hell. So the Quran author doesn't know what he's saying because he's telling us two different things that you can't actually do. This 4th, 5th century Christian has no way of following this verse. He can't follow the Quran. He's being told to follow the gospel, but as soon as he does, he commits shirk. And if he doesn't, then he disobeys the Quran. So he has no actual function of completing this. So either Allah, well, the Quran author didn't know about this massive inconsistency, or he doesn't care, in which case he's evil or just some being that delights in punishing people for things they have no control over.
I mean, your choice is, and you know, given the name that you've given yourself, you know, so that, you know, cross liquor. The author of the Quran is either dumb or the devil. Take your pick. Is he stupid or is he demonic?
Let's read the verse you just picked up, 568, right?
Yeah.
You have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel. And what does it say just next to that? Like literally the next 5 words.
And what has been revealed to you from your Lord. So the Quran, right?
Thank you.
That helps.
Okay. Of course, no. From the Quranic perspective, from the perspective of the Quranic author, okay? Does he blatantly or just out of context tells you to obey the gospel and the Torah, or does he tell you to do that and add in his own understandings and commands and textuality with these texts, the gospel and the Torah?
So how is he confirming if he's not actually confirming? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying maybe he wants to say he's confirming the gospel and we should follow the gospel, but then he's also not confirming it. In fact, he's doing the opposite. He's denying it. He's saying it's corrupted in the very same book, in the very same revelation. I think that's a massive contradiction. That's not That's not how people speak
at all. This is a contradiction unless you're willing to grant a general confirmation, which is the same thing as I told you happened in Matthew chapter 23.
Right. My friend, you know why I went to this verse in particular? Because this is a specific instance where the Quran talks about a kind of category of something that it confirms, namely salvific issues, soteriology. This is talking about how you can go to heaven. And it's saying that the way you do that in the very next verse, people of the book, al-Kitab, what do? You have nothing to stand on unless you stand on the Torah and the gospel and all that has come to you from your Lord. What happens if you do that? Christians and Jews, if you believe in Allah and the last day and you do righteous deeds, then there will be no fear and no grief. So in the context of salvation, the Torah and gospel are valid. And they're not only valid, they're binding upon the Christian and Jew to follow.
But when you read the Torah, when you read the Injil, the way
and the Quran.
And the Quran. I would say that in this context, imagine it before the Quran has been revealed.
Yeah, but the point is when you read the Torah.
Before the Quran was. Yeah, this is the difference. Before the Quran has been revealed.
When you read the gospel, The way of salvation is faith in Jesus Christ. It is not. It is not. Obeying and submitting yourself to the 5 pillars of Islam. And so the soteriology of the Torah and the soteriology of the gospel and the soteriology of the Quran don't line up.
The problem is the soteriology of you, for example, does not align with the soteriology of Jesus, because we have many instances where Jesus talks about soteriology, and it's always about keeping the law, the commandments, and believing in God.
That's a separate debate, and we're not going to get sidetracked. You're making a claim that we can debate another time, and if you want to have that debate, what is the soteriology of Jesus? I'm happy to have that debate with you. We can organize that. But the point is that the soteriology of Jesus Christ is Christ-centric.
Just to add here, the
he
reason
literally says that in the Eucharist. That my body and my blood is shed for the forgiveness of sins. That's literally what Jesus says. And again, that is part of the stable text, Nota.
We can undercut
so it's
this.
Original.
Yeah, we can undercut this as well. We can look. The Quran says it's shirk to associate partners with Allah. Jesus, in what has been recorded in his own words in all 4 of the gospel accounts, makes these kind of claims that are not Islamically compatible. They are shirk in the Islamic context. So there is no way you can reconcile this. The Quran says the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is valid for salvation, and yet it obviously isn't according to the Quran's own words. It's contradictory. The Quran author keeps telling us to do something like follow the gospel and observe it, and if we do that faithfully, we will have a good understanding of Allah on the last day and do all that stuff. And yet at the same time says don't associate him with partners. If you do, you're going to hell. So the Christian who lived before the Quran is in an unsavable, confused, contradictory state. He can't do anything. That's my
Chris
point.
And Bob. Chris and Bob. Let me. Okay. Let's say this Quranic verse was revealed. Okay. Let me read this hypothetical Quranic verse. The Jews and the rabbis of Medina sit on Moses' seat. So practice and observe whatever they tell you. No. This is I know, but this is a hypothetical Quranic verse. The Jews and the rabbis of Medina sit on Moses' seat. So practice and observe whatever they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they preach but do not.
Quoting the Bible
practice.
doesn't get you out of this dilemma, bro.
No, it's because this is very similar to what you guys call the Islamic dilemma. With this verse, in isolation,
we're not talking about not 1 second. Nota. We're not here to talk about an invented Christian dilemma. We're talking about the Islamic dilemma, and because we are finishing in 8 minutes, I'm going to pull rank. Sorry, everybody.
The same thing too.
Now,
I have to go in 8 minutes too.
So my final question to you, Nota.
Go ahead.
Can you show me any clear, unambiguous verse in the Quran that says that the Injil has been corrupted?
There is no verse that says that the Injil has been corrupted at all. There is a verse that.
Can you show me? Thank you. Can you show me any Injil, any verse in the Quran that is unambiguous that says clearly that the Torah has been corrupted?
No.
And the Zabur?
No. There's not. There's no verse. There is one verse, but it's. I'm not going to use it.
I probably know which one you're going to go to.
Yeah.
It's like writing the book with their own hands.
Yeah. It's so that the Jews were writing the books with their own hands and
saying this is the Talmud.
Yeah, I would say it's the
Talmud. No. It's not. The problem is
we think it's the Talmud. The Quran does not say it's the Torah, and the Quran does not.
Exactly, and that's exactly the point. There is so much difference of opinion among scholars. What exactly is it? The Torah? Is it the Talmud? Is it some books that we're not aware of? There's so much difference of opinion that this is why I'm not going to use it.
Okay, Nota.
There's no consensus.
I'm still pulling rank. That's why I'm shutting Chris up. Here's another question for you.
Go ahead.
According to the Quran, the original Injil was there in the 7th century. And according to Islamic tradition, it was in the possession of the Muslim community. Don't you think it's strange, given the fact that the Islamic sources say that the original Injil was present in 7th century Arabia and within hand grasp of the Muslim community, that after conquering and colonizing the Middle East, the Muslims never use it polemically or apologetically against the vast majority of the Christian population whom they now had rule over? Don't you think that's strange?
Like there are scholars who say that there is like an original Injil that's from, like, for example,
your Quran, and your Hadiths claim that an original gospel that even prophesies Muhammad, an original Injil, is in the possession of the Arabian Peninsula, in possession of the Muslim community, because obviously Muhammad takes control of the Arabian Peninsula. The Muslims then, very quickly, as you know, conquer the exhausted Zoroastrian and Byzantine empires, because they've just been fighting.
That's a new question.
So don't you think it's strange that the Muslims never trot out this original Injil to go, aha, Christians, this is the original, we have it, here it is, and here's the prophecy of Muhammad, and your gospel has been corrupted, but this is the original? Why don't you think that that's weird that they never do that?
I'm going to answer you, because there's no original and preserved and corrupted magical Injil in the 7th century. There's no such thing as that. It simply does not exist. The second thing, you are assuming that the Quran refers to this magical Injil. I don't think so. I think the Quran refers to what the Christians had at this time in the 7th century. I think the Quran uses Injil in multiple ways, but one of the ways it uses it is the Gospels that they had at the 7th century, which would be the Gospels that we have today, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. So there's this whole magical Injil. It does not exist. And if there is any Muslim watching me, should really understand that it simply does not exist. This is an argument that you have to drop. It does not exist. It's a dumb argument. The Christians will laugh at you. It simply does not exist. I think he refers to Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John when it speaks about the Christians that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was talking to. When it speaks about the thing that was revealed to Jesus, it would mainly talk about the teachings that Jesus was revealed. And for the Muhammad being in the Gospels, this is going to surprise you, but I do hold to the position that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is prophesied in the Synoptic Gospels, and it's not the Paraclete thing. The Paraclete thing, I think it's not him. It's not Muhammad at all. I think this is another argument that the Muslims should drop. The Paraclete has nothing to do with the Prophet Muhammad, and I think it's scholarly consensus that the Paraclete thing is a Johannine invention. I would recommend. I would tell the Muslims that are watching me, and even the Christians, to look about the future coming Son of Man, which would be the Prophet Muhammad. But it's not the Paraclete.
Nota, I just want to say it's been.
I know you were gonna laugh. I knew, Chris. I knew it. I knew it.
That's why.
I was about to. I was about to bet $1 trillion you would laugh. I knew it. I knew it.
Nota. It's been I just want to say it's been a real pleasure having you on. And I would love to continue our conversation.
Me too, man. Like, for real, me too.
If you go to my website, you can book in a Zoom call for free. I don't charge, and we can have this conversation off the record.
I'm gonna have a better name.
Future debate where we have a debate on my channel, and we have a chat on one of the many topics that we've talked about. I just want to say I really appreciate your good-humored, good-spirited way. And I also just want to encourage you to change your profile.
Yeah, I will. Yo. I'm gonna be very honest with you. Because I thought you would consult me or some shit. beforehand, like prior to this. I thought you would like insult me or mock me or anything like, or
Yeah.
blaspheme something like this. Is where like I had this
We're
prior,
not Da'i,
but
bro. We're not Da'i. There's Da'i that do that. We're Christians. We do it better.
I'm not.
Anyway, I
Next
wanna
time, so I'm gonna contact you by the name of Enzo, because my name is Enzo.
Yeah, get in touch with me and let's keep the conversation going off camera and maybe even organise a couple of debates. But I'm going to invite you to remove yourself now, so that there's no ignominy of me having to remove you. But thank you so much for coming on.
I'm gonna leave. Just give me 20 seconds. My last statement that's gonna last 20 seconds.
Okay,
I appreciated the conversation.
From
Now it's time. Okay. I appreciate it. It was really a nice conversation. I actually did not thought at all it would be that nice. It was cool. I'm gonna contact you by the name of Enzo. My name is Enzo, and I'm not gonna have this name. I'm not gonna have this insulting name. Have a good one. Take care of you very much. That's it. Bye, everyone.
God bless. Take care.
Take care, man. Thank you for the good chat. It was really enjoyable, and yeah, thank you for your kind demeanor. I hope to speak to you again.
Take care. Right. As Nota removes himself, Chris, final thoughts.
Should I plug my book? I mean, I probably should plug my book again at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
anyone who is not yet aware, if I can get it the right way around, I am the author of the Islamic Dilemma.
Really close to the camera.
Hold it really close. You know what? I should probably have just left it like this the whole way through, right?
Yeah, you could have.
Yeah,
No, it would have been covered by your name. You needed it more to the right, but you didn't. Anyway, just plug it, bro. It's like
the Islamic Dilemma, ladies and gentlemen. I have to get it in the light, kind of there, but has a foreword by Dr. David Ward, who was gracious enough to write the foreword for me. It is available on Amazon. You can search the Islamic Dilemma and you'll find it. It's done incredibly well. I'm really surprised by how many people are buying this and supporting this, which is amazing news. Thank you for everyone that went to the NAPC conference and got a signed copy of me there. If you buy the book and you see me at Speaker's Corner, I'll sign it for you there. But yeah, other than that, I think that the Islamic Dilemma is still a very strong argument. I think it's not been defeated yet, and I think the arguments against it are really weak, and they can't really withstand scrutiny, which would mean that Islam is ultimately false.
I just want to thank Umar as well for coming on. I didn't kick Umar off. He left of his own accord. I don't know why, but Umar left of his own accord.
Well, they disagreed with each other.
Oh, right. Yes. Umar's position, and that is the point, isn't it? When the apologetics of the Ummah come at it from 1,000,001 different issues, 1,000,001 different directions, it's a sign that they've never really thought this out. And I'd love to get a question of who are these Christians that the Quran is talking about that have preserved this Injil. That'd be a good one. But I just want to say thank you, Chris, very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure having you on as always. And one day you might even invite me onto your channel. So I invite all these people onto my channel, and nobody wants me on theirs. I'm starting to think it's personal.
I swear you were on my channel once at some point, right?
And how many times have you been on mine?
No,
how many times have you been on mine?
I know. You were, but I don't think it was just you. It was you and others, I think. Yeah. And that was ages ago.
Yeah,
all right. I will invite you.
Just saying.
I will indeed. I'll make sure it happens at some point.
And if you guys have found what I'm doing a blessing, I want to encourage you, please go and check out the back catalogue. Go and see the other live streams that I've done with Chris and many other people. And if you want to support the work that I'm doing, all the links are in the description box. Thank you for tuning in, guys. And we're going to close with a Psalm 128. How blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. When you shall eat of the fruit of your hands, you will be happy, and it will be well with you. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine within your house, your children like olive plants around your table. Behold, for thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord bless you from Zion, and may you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Indeed, may you see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel. Good night. and God bless. If you hang back, Chris, I'll talk to you afterwards.
Will do.